Chapter 13. Cara. Cara gripped the steering wheel to keep her hands from shaking. If he had managed to poison the garden, how many people would get infected? And what if that hadn't been his first stop? Could he have poisoned other places around town? All of those questions bothered her, but the thing that bothered her the most was his face. He was familiar, and she didn't think it was from her bed and breakfast, but she couldn't place him. Perhaps if she could, that would help her figure out who was behind this.
"How big is this church?"
Cole asked beside her as she turned down the last street. "It's not one I attend, but I think it holds about 300, and it's the biggest donator to the food pantry." As she finished her sentence, the crosses that stood atop the large church came into view. Beside her, Cole let out a low whistle.
"You weren't kidding."
The church only stretched about 3 stories tall, but the expanse of it was mainly in the width. It spanned nearly an entire block, and the fear gripped Cara a little tighter as she pulled into the parking lot and saw the other cars. It wasn't a Sunday or a Wednesday, so she doubted they were here for service. She supposed they could belong to the employees, but she had no idea how many people worked in the church. As soon as the car was in park, she killed the engine and shot out of the car. Cole quickly fell into step beside her. Though large double doors under a covered entrance were directly in front of them, Cara veered to the right, where she suspected the garden might lay. Sure enough, the planted rose soon came into view. As she scanned the area, she called out for Cole to keep his eyes open for the watering can, but not to touch it if he found it. Before they had made it very far into the rose, a voice spoke up behind them. "Can I help you?" Cara turned to see a woman approaching them. Her short gray hair stood in contrast to her bright blue jumpsuit. Though she appeared older than Cara, her thin build suggested she kept in shape, and she was definitely fashion-conscious. "Yes, ma'am. I'm Cara Hunter. I own the bed and breakfast near the beach." The woman's eyes lit up. "Oh, I've heard such great things about that place. It's so nice to meet you." She extended her hand, complete with a colorful shell bracelet, but Cara didn't shake it. "I'm sorry. I don't mean to be rude, but we need to know if anyone has been in the garden recently." The woman dropped her hand, a hesitant smile on her face, as if she was unsure what to make of Cara's rudeness. "Well, yes, we just finished pulling the vegetables, and we're washing them in the kitchen. Did you need something?" Cara's heart tightened. "Did anyone find a watering can?" "I think Daisy did. She brought it in the church. Did you leave it?" Cara exchanged a look with Cole, who had come to stand beside her. "No, but we might know who did. We need to speak with everyone who has been in the garden today or touched any of the food that came out of it." The woman's hesitant demeanor dissolved into one of trepidation. "Are we in trouble?"
"Not trouble, ma'am," Cole said, stepping forward with his hands up, "but possibly danger."
Her hand flew to her mouth as a shocked gasp passed her lips. "Come with me. I'll introduce you to everyone. I'm Martha, by the way."
"Martha, it's a pleasure to meet you. I wish we were here under better circumstances."
Cara marveled at how pleasant and calm Cole sounded. She prided herself on her cool head in the face of danger, but she knew her voice and her manner generally reflected that coolness. She'd been called an ice queen more than once during her time in the military. Perhaps she could pick Cole's brain after this was all over and find out how he was able to come across calm and kind. The church kitchen was larger than her own kitchen back home, and the sight of the 10 women washing the vegetables and laughing together filled her with sadness. She hoped none of them would get ill, especially since it appeared the median age among them was over 60. Cara knew the immune system often grew weaker with age. "Martha, is everything okay?" One woman stepped away from the counter as the trio entered. She reminded Cara of the grandmotherly stereotype. There was a slight blue tint to her curly hair, and her shirt and slacks could have come directly from Betty White's Golden Girls wardrobe. "I'm not sure." Martha turned to Cole and Cara, as if indicating they should take over the conversation. "Hi, ladies." Cole flashed a charming smile at the women. "My name is Cole Davenport, and this is Cara. We're here with some unfortunate news. It appears that someone got a hold of a virus. That person is in the hospital, but we have reason to believe he may have infected the soil of the garden you are working in." The women's eyes widened, and several of them gasped. "What does that mean?" Betty White asked. "I'm going to let Cara discuss that, as she's more familiar with this virus." He looked to Cara and motioned with his head for her to step up. Cara cleared her throat as she looked out at the fearful women. "This virus is melioidosis. It's not a virus we often see in the States, and it's not generally transmitted person to person." "Thank heavens," another woman said, as she fanned her face. Cara bit the inside of her lip, hesitant to rain on the woman's parade. "Unfortunately, this virus is transmitted through soil and water." The woman's smile slid from her face. "So, what are you saying?" "I'm saying you all need to come with us to the hospital to get tested. If you touched the soil, you may be at risk of contamination." Another woman lifted a weathered hand in the air. She appeared to be the oldest from her white hair and soft skin. "What if you didn't touch the soil directly, but you touched something that was in the soil?" "Like the vegetables?" Cara asked. She nodded. "Yes, but before they were washed." "What are you talking about, Edith? No one has touched the vegetables except us." Edith fidgeted nervously. "Well, actually, little Robbie came by, and I gave him some broccoli and potatoes for his family." There was a collective sigh, joined with a chorus of, "Oh, Edith," from the women. Evidently, this was something the woman did often. "I'm sorry, but who is little Robbie?" Cara asked. Her cool demeanor had returned, and she forced a smile to her face in an attempt to lighten it. "He's a little boy who lives in the neighborhood," Martha said. "He has a very big family, and they use the pantry a lot. Usually his mother comes by, but sometimes she sends Robbie, and Edith sends him home with extra food, or in this case, early food." "But you gave it to him before you washed it?" Cara asked. Edith nodded. "Is he in danger too?" "I'm afraid he could be. Does anyone know where he lives?" The women looked at each other and shook their heads before Edith spoke up again. "I know what direction he went, but we've never actually been to his house." Cara resisted the urge to rake her hand through her hair. She had been hoping they would be able to contain the outbreak here, but it appeared they were too late. How about a last name? If she had that, at least she could get Jordan involved. Maybe he could look the family up. She knew he was more familiar with the area than she was. Edith pursed her lips, sending more wrinkles out from her mouth and across her forehead. I think it's Robertson. I remember it was like Robertson because that's my son-in-law's last name, but it wasn't exact." "No, I'm pretty sure it's Peterson." Another woman spoke up. This one had flaming red hair that screamed it came from a bottle and not the good Lord. "I thought it was Richardson," Martha spoke up. "Isn't the mother's name Dottie?" "No, Darla." Cara wondered how these women got anything done. It appeared none of them had a great memory, and they were now bickering like hens in a yard. She held up her hands. "Ladies, it's fine. Those names are helpful. I have a friend in the police department, and he can look them up. I'm sure he'll find Robbie. Now, if you can please come to the hospital with Cole and me, it really is important that we get you tested." Her words were like a bucket of water on a flame. The women immediately hushed, and the tone grew somber. Cara bit back a sigh. This was not her strong suit at all. Ladies, get your keys. We have work to do, Martha said, coming to her rescue. As the other women buzzed around, grabbing their purses and other things, Cara stepped closer to Martha. Thank you. Martha nodded. I know you're just trying to do your job. They're all a little rattled right now, but they're good women. Cara placed a hand on the woman's shoulder. I know they are. Do you know where the watering can is? A blank look covered Martha's face for a moment before she perked up and motioned Cara to follow her to the back of the kitchen. There, on a small table near the back door, sat the offensive item. Cara looked around for something to pick it up with. She wasn't afraid of contamination from the can, but she didn't want to smear any fingerprints or add her own. Here. She turned to find Cole holding out a medical glove to her. The corners of her lips pulled up slightly. You always carry one of those around with you? This man was full of surprises. He shrugged. I was a Royal Ranger growing up. Always gotta be prepared. Cara had never heard of the Royal Rangers, but she assumed they were akin to Boy Scouts or the like. She took the glove and offered a small smile. Thank you. Guess I could learn a few lessons from you. I'd be happy to teach you anything I can. He'd appeared to say the words without thinking, but something crackled in the air between them as their gazes locked. A warmth that Cara hadn't felt in a long time sprouted in her heart. If you two are ready, Martha said, interrupting the moment, we are too. Yes, of course. Cara shook her head to clear it, grabbed the can, and led the way to the parking lot. What had she been thinking? She was in the middle of what could turn into an outbreak. She had no time to be developing feelings for the man who had initially come to arrest her. So why couldn't she get him out of her mind?